Welcome to Soccer Over Gotham, episode 125, season 5. Before we get started, everybody, I just want to say that we're trying to get our show off of X, Twitter, and onto Blue Sky. So we need more fans to follow us over there. So please follow us on Blue Sky so we can build up the audience there and do more things there and eventually move ourselves off of X. All right, on this show, we have Gotham reigning in the rain, as they kick off the 25-20 season. Before we do, we have some quick Once Gotham news. A former player is joining her broadcast career. And then we will talk about this interesting game to see what we can learn from it. Rosters, formations, takeaways, fan vote hero of the match. We play our newest game, which is a game show called Is It a Red? We will also talk about the record-breaking debut of Mak Witham in a broader context. And then we will look around the league and discuss if parity still exists in this league. And then we will also look ahead to our first home game of the 2025 season as Gotham welcomes the champs to Sports Illustrated Stadium. Still getting used to that. But first, I'm here again with Noela. Noela, how are you?
Doing good, Kay. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Directly after this podcast, I'm going to the dentist. So hashtag pray for me.
Good luck.
Yeah, indeed. It's never ever fun. First, Noella, we have some good news. Our friend of the show, McCall Zerboni, is joining the broadcast booth. She went through the NWSL media boot camp, and now she's going to be on some. It just says that she's going to be on as a world feed analyst. I'm not exactly sure what that is or how to find that, but congrats to her.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We're NWSL champion, long veteran for so many
Was it
years.
four times, five, 4 times, right? Four-time
Before.
champion.
And she just has so much experience on the field as a player. So being an analyst, of course, I think is the next best step for her in her career. And I think she's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's an incredibly smart player, and she's got has a world wealth of knowledge that she's going to be able to give to the audiences, and it's going to be great. So good luck, McCall. We wish you the best. Then let's just jump to this game because this is just like there's a lot in this game. Noella. So first, no Midge Purse, which is good. I don't want Midge Purse in the rain on turf.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, no. And for Seattle, no Lynn, which I was hoping to see her. And they were making a big deal about that storyline of her facing her former team. Didn't happen. Now, this lineup is interesting, Noella. We have, instead of the 4-3-3, which we're used to, we have a 4-1-4-1, and we have Berger in goal. Carter was on the left side to start, and then about the 25th minute, switched over to the right side for Freeman. And then we have the best center back pairing in the league, which is Emily Sonnet and Davidson. Sitting in front of them was Neely Martin in a lot of space. And then a flat four midfield of Stevens, Howell, Shapansky, Gabby Portillo, and Esther Gonzalez up top. I'm curious your thoughts on just the switch in a lineup.
I think it's a good decision by Juan Carlos Amaros
Mm-hmm.
because you have so many players. Like you look at that flat four, right? And you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
all of their attacking abilities, their opportunities to create goals. And so I think what he was trying to do here is try and give these players more flexibility and more options to not just feel so confined. I think sometimes with the 4-3-3, you can kind of get very pigeonholed in terms of certain players are designated as just those like kind of wing players and they kind of just have to stay out there. But it was really nice to see these players checking into spaces. There's a lot of space also, right, in between those lines. So I felt like it was really nice to see Howell checking back in and then being able to distribute. Shapansky also coming back in, being able to distribute and create options. So I think it was a really good benefit. And it works with the players. Sometimes you get coaches that I think they marry themselves to a system, and it's nice to see a coach say, "No, I'm going to adjust the system for the players that I have."
You're right. And especially for this game, I think this works both for the personnel that we have and as far as the game plan against Seattle. So the main difference between like a 4-3-3 and a 4-1-4-1, the 4-1-4-1 is like the defensive version of the 4-3-3. What it does is instead of having like one attacking midfielder, you have two. So like in a 4-3-3, you can get shifted to one side and it opens up a lot of space on the other side. And that in the big, I guess to say the downfall of 4-3-3 is big long switches, right? And as we know, Seattle likes to get the ball down the wings. They talked about it many times on the broadcast how they want to get their fullbacks forward and get balls across like Huerta used to do. And having a flat four prevents that long switch for the most part. So that again is better for defensively against Seattle, but also it allows if Esther goes to the right, Sierpinski can follow her and support her there, and if she goes to the left, Howell can jump in and follow her there and support her there. So it gives a little bit more flexibility, and as you mentioned, a lot more creativity, a lot more freedom. However, it does leave Neely Martin with a lot of space to cover, and it leaves her alone a lot of the time. But if Gotham is sitting back, it could easily shift to like a 4-5-1, which gives you a lot of bodies in the middle of the park, and it really doesn't allow Seattle to go straight forward. So they kind of have to go to the wings. So I think it worked out well in this game, especially against what Seattle wants to do. Also, with this lineup, Noella, we have the oldest player on the bench was 27.
It's
Isn't
exciting.
that wild?
It's super exciting. It's so much
It is
potential.
exciting. Yes, we're used to having like 35, 36 year olds
But
on the
granted, it's
bench.
not a
And
bad thing either, right? But
no,
it's
not,
but
no.
it's exciting in the terms of the what we've talked about in previous episodes, right? Like that development, that potential there is going, it's
Hmm.
infinite.
Yeah, and the oldest player was CC Kaiser, and then Shelby Hogan, I think, is 25 or 26. And then you got a bunch of rookies and young players, which is very, very exciting. And in getting to this game, Noella, I want to talk about, I think the big story, or the overarching story in the first half at least, was Sarah Shapansky. She was lively, she fit right in, she was playing balls around, and just your thoughts on her energy, her ability to play both sides of the ball. Um,
It's exciting. I think she's a really, really strong player with a lot of talent, with
mhm,
a lot of vision. I think she fit into this format really nicely in the sense where, as we were talking about before in the new format, there's a lot of space that I think these, especially those two attacking midfielders, Howe and Swansky, they can kind of drop in and receive the ball and then, like you said, distribute and feed.
mhm.
I really, really liked her aggressivity as well. She took her own chances on goal, which I think I believe it was one corner that she was able to deflect the ball off of, and it just kind of skirts to the side. So she not only was creating chances for other players, but she's creating options for herself. And I think as a debut, you couldn't ask more from her. I think it's a little unfortunate though that, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it a little bit later about the Reigns goal, where she's kind of caught in a position where she's facing our own side, and the Reign did a really good job of like pressing in groups of like two and three, and they able to pick her pocket and go on and score the goal afterwards. But overall, I think it was almost a perfect debut for her.
I'm just going to say this. I did say this last week, at least last week. I know I said the podcast before that as well, but I said if Shapansky gets minutes, she's going to be a rookie of the year candidate at least. So I feel like I was made right
Vindicated.
already. I think she's a super talent. And when was the last time, Noella, you saw a player taking corners with both feet?
Yes, that was super impressive. I remember seeing her on the left side, and I
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, it's like that's a great delivery." Of course, obviously,
Yeah.
and a goal.
Yeah, she plays with both feet. She can shoot from anywhere, and her vision is very Jenna Nighswonger esque, where she can find pockets in space and just play balls anywhere. And I think the most impressive thing about her was not just that we know that she's good on the offensive side of the ball, but she was very good defensively. She had at least, I think, five or six recoveries, and she was only dribbled past one time. She won her one tackle. I thought she was good on both sides of the ball, and I think that if we know anything about Juan Carlos, he when the players are hot, he plays them. So I expect to see more of her as we go forward. I think that's a good thing for this club.
Agreed.
Yeah. Then we have, I mean, what a debut goal from Gabby off a beautiful corner from Shapansky. Gets played out and just on the bounce, just ropes it back into the net. Just an amazing way. What a way to start your career here at Gotham.
And it's exciting too because I think Portillo like recognized really well, as a lot of great players do, looking for that second ball. And she positions
Hmm.
herself so well at the top of the box, knowing that anything that comes out is coming my way and I'm gonna be able to get it. I think she gets lucky too with I mean, I don't want to say lucky because all good players will put the ball on frame And then from there, anything can happen. But the
Hmm.
deflection from Haitham obviously kind of catches that goalie off guard. And but all the prop support they do, she understood where to be, read the play really well, hits and provides really good contact, right? When the ball kind of like skips up from the ground, especially with those conditions of the rain, it was definitely hard to keep under control and get it on frame. But excited for her first goal with the club.
Yeah, as I always say, luck comes to those who put themselves in positions to be lucky,
Yes.
and you just got it on a frame. That's what happens, right? So good for her. It was an amazing goal. I loved her goal celebration, and I think one of the one of the fans said that we should put her in charge of the goal celebrations for Gotham. I said, all right, that's fine. And going back, I think let me just pull up our I let's see. I think most fans. Let's see. Go back to our poll. Who thought was going to score the first? Okay, so who scores the first Gotham FC goal of the season? And 86% put Astaire. Only 6% said Gabby. So good for those fans who said Gabby's going to get the first goal of the season.
I will say
So
that choosing Esther as an option obviously wasn't a bad call at all because the
yeah.
amount of opportunities she had. I think it was a little tough on her because a few chances she was kind of forced to play out with her left foot, which is going to
Mhm.
always be tougher for the not dominant player. Ella Stevens plays a really great ball, I believe,
Mhm.
around the 30th minute in the first half. Just a really nice through ball, perfectly weighted pass, and Esther gets through and just isn't able to get a lot of good contact on the ball. But her goals are going to be coming because she's got a lot of distributors and good creativity around her, and she makes the perfect runs. So that goal is going to come for her soon.
There was a couple, maybe like a minute or two when Gabby and Astaire were kind of isolated together and they worked really well, like just getting around a couple players. And I feel like that's going to build and it's going to get better and better as the season goes on. So, Noel, let's go play a game. Was it a red card? Howell and Freeman. Now, we asked the fans, and the fans, or the choices were just Howell's was a red card, just Freeman was a red card, both of them, or neither. Now, to give you a little bit of context, Howell, the ball was high and behind her, and she just lifted her leg, and the side of her boot caught the face of a player running into it. And then Freeman was tangled up with, I forget the player's name on Seattle, and they were muscling each other towards the sideline. And Mandy's foot went behind her, and her foot dragged a bit, so she caught her ankle with her cleats. So both of them were 50-50 borderline reds, but the fans said 40% said it was just Howells was a red card, and 48% said neither were a red card and only 1.9% said just Freeman's was a red card, and 10% said both. Your thoughts?
I will say it's not a specific rule. I don't want to get this wrong. I was actually just looking this up before the show, but I know
Hmm.
me and my dad talk about this a lot because he played soccer, obviously, in Colombia and has a lot of experience as a referee here in the States. As soon as a player, and this is all over the professional leagues, as
Hmm.
soon as a player makes contact with their studs on
Hmm.
someone's leg or their foot, anywhere, even if it's accidental. It happens a lot of times actually accidentally where people will go into side tackles and they'll go out with their studs, and as soon as you stomp them, it's an immediate red card. And that's why the VAR here brings the referee over to kind of call over and be like, no, this needs to be a card. Definitely not Mandy Freeman's fault. Her player just happens to get around her. She's kind of also, I feel like, losing her footing, of course. And it's not intentional at all, but it doesn't matter because once a player's studs come up and they make contact with someone else's leg, you can break a bone. So that's why it's almost always called as a red card. So for her call, I was completely fine with that being called as a red card. Howell, I think, gets really lucky too, but I don't know. I think she got lucky there too.
Yeah, going back to what we said about getting lucky, you can put yourself in a position to get unlucky as well,
Yes.
and I think both these players put themselves in a position to get unlucky, and it's a 50-50 call. I think both these are. So I personally, I could see both of them being red. Howell just was. You cannot just put your foot up and not. She was not looking in the direction she was putting her foot up in, and she did not know what was there. So that's like putting endangering the safety of a player. So that to me could be a red. And Mandy's is like obviously there's no intention in
No,
that,
of course.
but as you said, yeah, you cleat somebody. It is it. And if you saw the freeze frame of the VAR, it was right on that point where it could have been really bad.
Right.
So I think it's I think the ref made the right decision for both of them. Well, I don't know. It's 50-50 for me on both of them. I'd rather not have. We're going to see Brini next week probably because Freeman
Right.
is not going to be there. So there's that. But yeah, I'm still 50-50 on these guys. I don't know.
I think it
Yeah.
always ends up being of a when a card is played out, especially late in the match, you kind of think to
Yeah.
yourself, no, it won't make it much of a difference. And we saw it obviously in the game where it's not that Gotham was like forced to like retreat and like leave themselves open to attacking
Hmm.
either because they continued to come back and they had, I believe, one or two more solid opportunities. But it's like discouraging, I think, for the player. And I'm sure Mandy probably is a bit frustrated about having to miss the next game.
Yeah. Agreed. I'm just going to go with refs are human, and they made the best call that they possibly could make at that with giving what they had.
Definitely.
So we'll just go with that. However, there was some positive news. Mak Witham makes her debut as the youngest player ever in a professional league, which is pretty cool. Now, fans have been rightfully concerned, which I agree with. There is some concern here. We have to know that there is a CBA now which protects players and puts in place protections for the specific situation. As you know, that like players, well, people that are 14 to 15 are subjected to labor law rules and things like that. And McCall Zerboni was on Attacking Third. I caught one clip of it, and she explained it pretty well, saying that this is what Mac wanted, not necessarily what her parents wanted for her, because there could be situations where, like, parents are pushing the kid to live their dreams or whatever. But this is all essentially what Mac wants. She also said that Mac cannot be in the locker room. She has her own changing room. So there's an own changing room at Sports Illustrated Stadium. If they travel, the father has to go with her and be supervised the whole time. And she doesn't have many interactions with the team itself, like I guess at lunch or whatever, just because of the age differences. So they said it's harder for the team to like embrace her as a player when they're isolated a lot of the time. But your thoughts, Noel?
Yeah, I feel for her because she's such a talented player and she's
Hmm.
proven time and time again. I remember the final in Colombia when, she scores the game winner versus Deportivo Cali and she has everything right, right? Like she has a great mentality, she's a talented player, she has ambition, she has passion. And so it's kind of tough because we understand why these rules are kind of put in place to protect her and make sure that she's in an environment where she's not taken advantage of or God forbid any other case. But as a player on a team, that's always going to be tough when you're not able to connect as much with your teammates. So I feel for her. I wish her all the best. I wish we would have seen a little bit more of her on the field. I hope she gets more minutes as the season progresses. But that's a tough situation to make, and I feel like I can't go one way or another on it.
For me, like I think that Gotham in this particular position was trying to make headlines. What I mean, like they did it in the summer tournament where they kind of put her in late in the game, and so they can say, "Hey, this is the first professional debut for like for 13 at the time,
I think
maybe I
13,
don't know."
yes.
Yeah, and then now I think it's like they had a minute or two left. I think the game was pretty much
Sealed.
dusted
Yeah.
and done. So throw her in there, make some headlines, grab some attention, and then I don't think we're going to see much of her the rest of the season. I think we'll probably see her in these kind of situations where she's coming on for like a minute or two. Frankly, if a team is putting on a 14 or 15-year-old as a regular player, that signals to me something is seriously wrong with your roster build, no matter how talented she
Mhm.
is. So I expect her to be used sparingly throughout the season. But this is a good training environment. And for the minute that we did see her, you saw that she is very
Mhm.
aggressive. She threw her body into a couple players. She's not afraid of anybody. I think she's going to be good in the long term. But I don't want to make too much of this, other than congrats to her for getting that honor. But as far as the fans are concerned, I think they're rightfully the right to be concerned. We were talking about a league that has historically not proven itself to be safe for its adult players, let alone some of the younger
Right.
players. And we're not out of the woods with all these scandals and abuse things. Obviously the San Diego Wave issues that's going on there. It's still being litigated. Where I think we still have 5 or 6 employees talking about the environment there being abusive under Jill Ellis. And right now there is ongoing investigations against Bay FC and their head coach, who was, I don't know if this is a thing, Noella, but it seems like a lot of these coaches that were in these abuse scandals were all like youth coaches at one time. I don't know if there's a connection between that, or maybe they built up like this power structure and are used to having that kind of
Power, ego.
leverage over
Yeah.
players. Right. Maybe that's a thing. But there are current allegations against BFC. They did 2 internal investigations that cleared him of any wrongdoing, but there's still uh, open investigations. Players reported that the team management was aware of their concerns. They said his coaching methods were toxic. And 2 people interviewed with the San Francisco Chronicle said Montoya would target and bully players in meetings in front of players. And if they questioned it, they would get punished for it. So these things are still happening in our sports, and we need to be super cautious of it. So it seems to me that Gotham is abiding by all of the regulations and rules regarding this young player.
Mm.
So hopefully things go really well. And I mean, also with the new team, the Royals last year, Carly Nelson, the goalkeeper, complained that her mental health was not taken seriously at the club. So there's still a long ways to go. So I think fans are rightfully concerned, but this is the global game now. So I don't know.
It's also unfortunate because I think from a coaching perspective, your
Hmm.
first priority has to be the players. Because you can have the best tactics in the world, you can have the best experience in the world, you can be a proven soccer player perhaps in a previous career, but you're not, as a coach, you're not on the field. And all of this, I like to say all the time that a coach is the conductor of an orchestra. That you're not necessarily playing the instruments. You're not, the talent lies within all the musicians themselves. And your job
Hmm.
is to pinpoint how how to best uh, mesh and mold these like group of talented players together and create the best sound from them. So it really discourages me and it kind of angers me sometimes when we get coaches that think that they can produce the best performances from players when they're actively bullying them and when they're actively putting them down and ignoring stuff like players' mental health. Because it's been proven, right, that the way that our state of mind is as a player when you step on the field, there's no way that you can compete at your highest performance if you are not comfortable in the environment, if you're doubting yourself, if you're doubting your coach and you don't have a good support system. So I've never understood really a coach's need or why some of them think that they are above that for some reason that they're the center of the club's universe when
Hmm.
really it's the opposite where we're as coaches as general managers everyone around should be looking to facilitate a position and an environment where players will find their best versions of themselves because that's ultimately how a team's going to continue it's going to win and create a winning environment so it just feels very counterintuitive where I just don't understand the logic behind it
Yeah, and it seems like it's always about power, and
which is
those who
ridiculous.
get power abuse it. Yeah. So it's frustrating. And then so far, everything's been going well with Mac, and she seems to have a good situation here. So hopefully, we're able to avoid any of these little pitfalls that happen. Because I think she's got incredible talent, and I think she's going to be a world class player sooner than later. Okay, yeah, getting back to this game. Do you have any player notes that for this game?
Really happy with Neely Martin's performance. I was
Hmm.
happy to
Hmm.
see her and Sonnet, I was going to say, just be able to pick up where they left off last season and really, really do well to break lines. I know Sonnet had a really good play with the Stevens Esther build up. It was really nice to see her just take the ball forward and break lines and just with one pass be able to really break through the Reign's midfield line. So happy to see the two of them as like leading figures for the team.
Yeah, in the 4-1-4-1, like Neely doesn't really have the freedom to go forward. She has to stay back. She has to become the third center back at times. And considering Gotham builds out wide, so she has to drop in. And I think I'm 100% on with you. I think she was excellent on the night, and her ability to play with Sonnet and Davidson is going to be key for us. And I think that's why we kept Seattle off the board for most of the game. So let's go to that Seattle goal. You mentioned it earlier. Shapansky gets the ball taken off of her. It's a bit of chaos in the box. I find that to be more unfortunate than anything else, and ball just happened to fall the right way for Seattle.
Yeah, Adamus does a really good job of making the most of her situation. It was funny because I remember watching it live and I see her on the ground and I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna be able to clear this ball out of the way. And she somehow like kind of just reaches out with her left
Hmm.
foot on the ground and she
Yeah.
sneaks it into that left corner. And I was like, well, you know what? Props to her. I mean, I wish we had done better in terms of like preventing her from receiving it in the first place, but she made the most of her situation and she did a great job of finishing.
Yeah, again, put yourself in a position to get unlucky and let allow the ball to bounce around in the box like that
Right.
and getting stripped at that point in the field. It's not always the best outcome when that happens. I don't, I'm not putting any blame on any players. I think it's just a ball fell the right way for them in that crazy on the rain and the turf, and just stars aligned for Seattle to get a point out of that
Yeah.
game, which I don't think they really deserved. I thought Gotham was a better team overall in this one. Now, as far as players, I thought Howell was a mixed bag. I think she looked good at certain points. She made a lot of successful passes going forward. I think there was moments where she has a little bit of like the Julie Ertz, where like on corner kicks the ball's going to find her, and I think she's going to be a threat on there. I think she scored two headers at least in the preseason off corners, so I think that's a good weapon for Gotham to have. She has a bit of a lead foot. Uh, she kind of puts a little bit too much pace on balls spreading around. But I think physically, I think she's good. And I think she's going to be that perfect go between the attacking midfielder, either it's Shupansky, whether it's Cook, whether it's Lavelle, and Neely Martin.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think as soon as these players get the opportunity to play more with each other and get to know each other
Mhm.
better and understand I love a good weighted pass. I feel like that's like one of the best sensations in soccer that you can provide. It's just like that perfect weighted pass. It's not too heavy, not too like short, but just perfect for the player running forward. So I think especially get them out of the rain, give them more time. I think it's gonna be really great.
Yeah. Also, just for the minute or two that Lily Reel was out there, you saw a little bit of flashes of why she is such a special player. She has a lot of pace for a large physical center back, and she defends really well 1v1. And one thing that I think jumps out is how competitive she is. She's going to be an excellent player. I think her and Shapansky are the ones to watch for this season as far as getting the most minutes and making the most impact. One random thought before we put a bow on this game. It's funny that we're on Ion. I don't know. It's funny because it's like you're watching the game, you see like Gotham FC versus whatever, and then like the next show is like Magnum PI. It's just funny that these like the shows that we're like put up against. Um, but yeah, I'm happy that it's free and online, which is nice, but it's just an odd channel to be on.
Have you seen it?
Have you seen what?
Magnum PI.
I think my parents used to watch it when I was a kid. So, yeah, is that Tom Selleck, the guy with the
Yes, Tom Selleck.
ridiculous mustache?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now, have you?
No, but it's funny because I'm a big Bob's Burgers fan, and Linda Belcher on
Okay.
that show, she's obsessed with Tom Selleck. So I think they've referenced it before.
There you go. Uh, Going to post game quotes, Juan Carlos said that the team was still going on the offensive, trying to win, even though the game was playing with 10 players. This is the mentality of this team is to try and win. And I think that was true. This team was going for it. I still think they were the better team at the end of the game, even when they were down a player. And bringing on players like Mac shows that, you are trying to go for it.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that, like we had talked about, that prior occasions to score kind of we didn't take advantage to finish them, and or maybe we could have been a little more patient in certain areas of the final third to see if we could produce a higher quality chance.
Mhm.
But this team, I think they played really well, and I am in agreement with you where I think they were the much better team and put themselves, I think, in a position to be a little unlucky with that play.
Mhm. Getting over to stats of the game, Noel, do you have any stats?
I really enjoyed actually the passes in the opposition half. I think that
Hmm.
was really, really, really a positive signal for the team in terms of creation and possession in a key area of the field, of course.
Yes, this is interesting because now been going from the 4-3-3 to the 4-1-4-1 is a little bit more defensively minded, and this is Gotham's usually a team that's on the front foot and teams into their own half and does a lot more passing on the opposite side than they do on their own half. And in this game, they were very comfortable playing out of the
Mhm.
back, and they had 215 passes in their half versus 93 in the opposing half. So that is an interesting. Got them sitting a little bit deeper, not playing as high of a line as they usually do. So I think they were expecting Seattle to play very direct since they couldn't use the wings. I think that could have been it as well. So that is a very interesting stat to watch as we go forward. But Gotham dominated in a lot of areas, and they had 70 more total passes, and they had 58 more accurate passes. So Gotham had a lot of the ball in this game, and I think they did really well controlling where this game took place. Now, this is an interesting stat. Was with the Gotham post-game wrap-up email, and it said when scoring the first goal of the match in the NWSL, Gotham FC has avoided defeat in its last 35 matches, which is big if true.
It's really important too, I think, in terms
Hmm.
of a team going out on the front foot and making sure they
Hmm.
kind of contain that. I think a lot of teams sometimes put themselves in a position where they give up or they score on the first and they kind of like relax themselves. But to see this and make sure that they're almost always getting a win or a tie, I think that's really impressive.
Yeah. Going to the player or hero of the match, fans voted overwhelmingly for Shapansky over Portillo. Just your thoughts? I think it's pretty obvious. I think she had the best game out of everybody on the field.
Yeah, and it's nice also to see sometimes when you get those like those Bud Light like players of the matches and stuff like in other games, they'll almost automatically give it to the goal scorer or the player who scored
Hmm.
the goal, even though, there might be other players that have stronger games. So props to the fans because they knew what they were doing here.
Yeah, our fans are the smartest in the sports. So let's get to the standings, Noella, which is we are in was it eighth place, I think now? Or no, one, two, sixth
Too early.
place with sixth place. Close. We're tied for there. Okay. Only three teams won this past week, and it was Orlando, Kansas City, and the Washington Spirit. You probably could have predicted that. And at the bottom of the table is this pretty much, it looked like last season. Like we picked up right where we left off, where the top teams were dominating the lower teams. And going forward for this week, we have some really interesting games. We have the top four teams from last season playing each other. So we have Orlando at home, and KC has to travel to the Washington Spirit. So I think both of those games are going to be incredible, and those are going to be probably my games of the week. What do you games are you looking forward to?
Definitely the Orlando match, of course. I think
Hmm.
receiving the Fire champs is always a big, big thing, especially at home as our home opener. I think it's going to be really exciting. I think we're going to be able to see a lot of really, really good matchups. Yeah, no, and I agree with you. Washington and KC, of course, is also going to be really good. I love watching the Spirit play at home. I feel like they have a different, like, they have such good energy when they play at home as well. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Going back to the top of the table versus the bottom of the table, Jeff Kassoud on ESPN posed the following question, and I wanted to pose it to you, Noella, to see what your thoughts are. I just want to discuss it. He said, "Is the NWSL becoming a two-tier league of competitiveness?" Now, if we're looking at last week, I mean, Orlando, Chicago, 6-0. Washington pretty much dominated Houston. And then KC dominated Portland in their games as well. Houston did put up somewhat of a fight. I think Yaz was awesome in that game, but it really does feel like given the amount of investment, teams at the bottom of the table did not do enough this offseason to bring their level up to the teams that are at the top of this table. Your thoughts?
It's a definitely an interesting question.
Hmm.
Because it's tough sometimes to gauge talent versus results. And
Hmm.
I think when you pose the question, right, of is there a clear separation between both, like two different types of clubs that we have in the league? I think it's really tough because you are not just looking, as we talked before, right, where the players are the ones going out and playing. But what is behind them? Do they have a coach? How fresh is that coach? How long has the coaching staff been around? What has, as you pose, has the managers done, the general managers, club executives done to bring in new talent, new faces, stuff on in the off season that teams are not necessarily, players are not necessarily in charge of. So I think it's tough. I don't want to say one way or another, but I do know that there's definitely, as we've talked about, right, that there's a lot more that clubs should be doing to support their players and be putting them in better positions to succeed, because at the end of the day they rely on these players, and I think certain clubs just aren't doing enough to put their positions, they're not putting their players in positions to succeed. And it may not be as overtly uh, I want to say, I'm thinking in Spanish. I'm sorry. I'm like, descaradamente is the word you would say in terms of like, it's not as like ridiculously offensive as like, for example, the case in Bay, right, where they have a coach that's clearly not good for the environment. But it may be like a case where, like you said, players are just not being given maybe enough minutes on the field, or decisions are being made that not bringing enough talent. I think it's tough. I think it's a little early in the season too to be thinking about it. Hopefully, teams will settle in. First few games are always a little tough, I think, for any club. But I don't know. I hope it doesn't. It's not as skewed as it was last season, I will say.
think there's three things, right? There is the right vision, the right coach, and then there's the right
Yes.
players, right? And I think those three things have to be aligned. And you look at the top teams, you look at Orlando, you look at Washington, you look at KC, and you look at Gotham. Those are four teams with identities that you can easily identify, right? They have a vision, they have a mission, and they have a support staff that is out there scouting players from around the world, getting the best players for that, and they all have excellent coaches. I mean, this is like the top four. The top four teams have the top four coaches in the league. Simple as that. And they all built rosters around the coaching style and philosophy and the vision of the club. So I think on those fronts, that is where those teams separate themselves from the rest of the pack. I think climbing into that would be probably the courage. Um, I have a lot of respect for the courage, just because they're a smaller market,
Mm.
but they act as if they're a bigger market club in a way that where they have the vision, they have the coach, and they always seem to be going out and upgrading their roster to fit what the coach wants. So I think they're in that conversation despite being a smaller market team. But I do think the teams at the bottom of the table are there for those particular reasons. They either do not have a vision, but, let's pull one out of a hat. Let's look at Chicago. New ownership. There was a lot of talk about them being player forward and making investments and all these things, and it hasn't been there. Their coach is, I don't know exactly what his philosophy is on the field, and their roster has kind of been put together kind of piece by piece, and it's like whoever wants to come here will take you. No offense to some of those players, but like now that Swanson's not, I don't know, she's not happy. I don't know where she's on personal leave, so I guess. But that's a big hole for that team because
Huge.
that's a very hard player to fill.
Yeah.
So is the roster built enough to combat those things? So I like where Gotham is at. I think as a whole, I think we're at a good space. I think we're definitely in that. We hit those three things. So I do think that it's going to show those clubs
Bulls.
rising to the top again this season. That's just my prediction. So let's jump over to our next opponent, which we talked about, but Orlando is coming to town. And this is the game I mentioned last week that I wanted to see because I want I think Gotham matches up well against Orlando, and there are few teams that match up well against Orlando. I think we can beat them if we play our game. Now it's gonna be 5 p.m. on Sunday. Go there early because Cloud9 always has a fun tailgate in the parking lot. So go follow them on Cloud9 Goth on all these social media platforms. Find out where their tailgate's going to be. Go there. I'm going to try to get there early and try to get to what I always say this, but I actually have time now, so maybe I can actually do it. So yeah, 5 o'clock. It's also going to be on ESPN Plus. So find it there. But your thoughts on this matchup, Noel?
Super, super, super excited. I'm really excited to see actually Barbara Vanda because she's, of course,
Mhm.
taken over from where she left off last season. 2 goals in the last game versus Chicago. She's such a good player. I'm just really, really excited. There's so much talent in that Pride team. And when you get two
Mhm.
teams that are super competitive, as you said, have two really good visions, both want to compete, both want to win this season, I think it's going to be an early indication of where I think the league's Shield title may lie.
Yes, and this will be at Sports Illustrated Stadium. Still getting used to that. It's going to be interesting. Going to sit in the new media seats. It's going to be fun. But yeah, I can hopefully see you guys there. And obviously, I know I say this a lot, but like if you're gonna get a chance to see Marta play in person, you do it,
Mm.
right? So besides the amazing players at Gotham, this could be the last time you could
No,
see Marta in
no,
person playing
no, don't say
in
that.
in person. So unless we go to the playoffs and they come to us, right? Like you got to take that chance. So she's one of the like few players that like no matter where she plays, she gets a standing ovation, and
Oh, she's
he's
so talented. She's,
indeed.
I don't mean to gush, but she's by far, she was my favorite player growing up. She's just such
Hmm.
an incredibly talented player, a creative player. I'm not going to gush. I can
Yeah,
go on for hours.
yeah, indeed. About the matchup itself, I think I've been on record for this, but I've never been sold on Morehouse. I always felt she was one of those keepers that has one or two moments a game where she's going to make mistakes, and her hands are not very good. I think the reason she had such a great season last season is because the defense in front of her was significantly better than it was the year before that. So I think she's a weak spot, and I think that if Gotham can get balls on target, they're going to create some type of rebound chances and things like that. So keep shooting, put balls on net, and force her to make good saves. Because I think she is the weak spot in Orlando. Now, any random thoughts before we get out?
Myself, no. I'm just
Hmm.
hoping for a win for the team's first win, home opener. I
Hmm.
hope it's a good time. Excited to see Cloud9 as always. They do a great job.
Yeah, let's manifest a win for the. Let's open up the Sports Illustrated Stadium
Yes.
and beat Orlando. Get on the front foot and stay undefeated. And yeah, let's make it happen. Let's get Esther on the board.
Ooh.
Now, random thought. There, it dropped this morning, and Jeff Casus again. Breaking news. There's going to be a global 7v7 women's soccer event that's going to launch ahead of the Champions League final in May. It has a promise of a $5 million prize pool. My guess is that they're seeing the how the Unrivaled League did really, really well. The new women's lacrosse league is sevens, so it's there's a lot of, and the TST tournament did really well as well. So I think that is the blueprint for what they're trying to do here, and it's going to be not just like random players going on a team. This is actually going to be clubs that are going to buy into this tournament and then play for this $5 million prize pool. Now, some of the people that are involved in it are one of Gotham's minority owners, Jennifer Maxey, and also one of the Bay FC, I think, owners as well, and um, Tobin Heath is going to be involved in it as well. So it should be fun. I'm not sure I'm a fan of the timing of it. It happens during when Gotham is away for the Champions Cup. So I don't think there's just first, Noah, your thoughts on this tournament.
Yes, that was exactly what I was gonna point out. That
Hmm.
I really don't like the idea for Gotham and for a lot
Hmm.
of the teams in the NWSL because it's just like scheduling wise, it's such a conflict. Um, I loved Unrivals. I really loved watching those players like Angel Reese just go out and do their thing in like a more intense, like more competitive environment. I think it was a lot of fun. And I think it's like more exposure for these female athletes, which is also always a good thing. Um, I don't know about the timing of this, like you said.
And again, there's going to be 8 clubs in it. Like for my thoughts, it's like, why do it in May?
Hmm.
Like, why not do it during the summer break when, teams may need to keep fit and things like that during, that July break that we have. And like Unrivaled was done during the off seasons. That's fine because it keeps players fit, keeps them competitive, things like that. I don't understand why it needs to be rushed into May. But yeah, but other than that, I'm happy for more investment, more tournaments, more money. Yeah, all that is good for the players.
Yes.
So we will be back next week, and I'm going to try to get there early. Let's go to this tailgate. Yeah, better be some vegan cupcakes there. Just throwing that out there. Uh, yeah. So we will see you all next week. Noah, any parting thoughts?
No, just hoping for a win.
All right, let's go.